those who may be watching out there. I promised George that we would be fairly brief as far as his time. He's very busy this morning, but he's agreed to come in and do a quick update on the water quality monitoring contracts that the town has, and some other interesting updates for equipment and things like that. So without any delay, George, thank you for coming.
I'll talk from here, I guess.
Sure, wherever you can sit at the table with us, whichever you wish.
This is fine. So there's just a few things, very, very live here. Just a few things I wanted to tell you about. Believe it or not, we have 11 current purchase orders for work with SMAST. Some go back a couple of years. UMass has told us after the passing of Brian Howes, they have reported officially they intend to honor all the contracts that are currently with all of their clients, which Orleans is substantial. We are also planning some additional work, such as the MEP update for Nauset Harbor, which we would do through UMass because they own the model. So that was, we're hopeful that they will have the capacity to both keep up with all the work that they've obligated themselves to and take on new. As you probably know, there's a proposed change, adoption of watershed permit regulations by DEP and a change to the Title V regulations. If those go through, there'll be a lot more watershed permitting work, which will lead to more demand for water quality modeling services at UMass. So I believe that Orleans being at sort of the front end of those additional requests is advantageous for us to get deliverables, because we know while we get deliverables usually by the date assigned, UMass is a year behind on billing us. So that's just a quick update on that piece. What else did you have in here? Well, there was one new purchase order we may initiate with the university, and that is we requested funding for a water quality summary of 10 years of water quality data. We've never done this. It's something I think has been talked about from time to time, that we need a way to effectively engage citizens and show them what is happening with water quality trends in a graphic way. So we've gotten a cost estimate for that work to do all 5 of the major groundwater basins in the town, 3 over at Cape Cod Bay, plus Nauset, plus Pleasant Bay. And the estimate of that was around $25,000, and I have put that in as a funding request. So why don't I just talk to you about the funding request that I put in about a month ago.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. So is that all of the saltwater ponds as well as the freshwater ponds, or is that?
The freshwater work was done like around 2018.
Thank you.
right?
So this data
This
display
was
is
the
only for the saltwater?
Thank you.
Marine sampling data, yes.
Just marine, okay.
This is what I put in. This has,
George, I had assumed it was including freshwater too.
I don't think it is, but I can confirm that with,
Yeah. It's been, 2017 was the last time that was done, so that would have been based on 2016 data
right.
for freshwater.
Okay, well, let me follow that up.
Not concluding the tech memo that was done, the last tech memo was revised in 2020, but was based on 2018 data.
We haven't scoped this out, but for budgeting purposes,
Yeah,
I
I
did get a
understand.
description. It's the sub-basin summaries of marine waters, so that's what's being planned. So I'll give you this one-page sheet just so you can see that the requests for funding for the work that has been planned previously are going forward. It's up to the select board to bring these into the actual budget. There are sort of 2 categories of funding requests. The first are the required for permit compliance, and that is we continue to monitor Lonnie's Pond, the shellfish project. UMass does the weigh-in, weigh-out, and plus the water quality, plus the sediment regeneration of nitrogen. And this is highly advantageous. Even at $40,000 per year for the nitrogen that's removed, it's like the cheapest way to remove nitrogen there is. So this is good. Cedar Pond monitoring, we continue to do that monitoring under the superseding order for the work that was done at Cedar Pond, and I won't get into the, what the monitoring leads to, but that's a funding request that's needed, as well as the summer sampling amount. The 19.7 for marine sampling does not include all of the stations in Orleans. It includes the ones that are not done by the Pleasant Bay Alliance. So we've maintained this sort of separate but equal funding method, and it's worked all right. All the data is under the same co-op, and it is compatible. So then there was what?
So I'm sorry, so that gets funded, as George said, through the Alliance, which in turn Orleans funds the Alliance, along with the other 3 towns.
We do.
So I don't know what budget that's under or how that gets billed, but that's, I think, about 100,000? 110,000?
Total to the Alliance, right. I just saw, it came through, I can't remember what the number is, I don't want to quote the wrong number, but a portion of the Pleasant Bay Alliance support is for the water quality monitoring in the Pleasant Bay
Right.
stations.
I think the majority of it, honestly. Well-
I'm talking about the whole budget,
Right.
which includes salaries and
Right.
other ongoing efforts. Yeah.
Right. So just one other quick thing, I don't see here, George, the freshwater pond samples, which SMS does for us.
In the 19.7, there is $5,000 for the spring sampling.
Okay.
In number 3.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, it didn't say there. So the so-called discretionary or not required areas are that, one, that water quality data analysis and summary, I just mentioned. And then since this group has made submitted the water quality management plans for Crystal Lake and Pilgrim Lake with requests that the recommendations be followed up, those recommendations include some short-term solutions for those 2 ponds, either alum or aeration treatment. So we requested $100,000, and that would be $25,000 for permitting for each, because we learned our lesson about permitting. It's more expensive than you think, and $50,000 for the actual treatment of one of the ponds. You may recall that the FY22 budget already has $40,000 in for remediation of one of those ponds. So I am not making certainly not a decision whether the town will go forward with an alum or an aeration treatment, but we want to make sure that we've highlighted the budget need if we choose to do so. So I believe you have a recommendation to the select board to follow that up. If you want to change that, you should let them know ahead of time, certainly as part of their budget cycle.
Yes, we do. It was in our recommendations letter. It was in the management plans for both Crystal and Pilgrim, and then our committee's recommendation letter that we submitted to the select board in January of 2021. We
Right.
have asked them for action
Yes.
on that, yeah.
So this would be the action to fund this, and then my office can administer the contracts to get that work done if we go forward.
Yes.
And the other item that is on the list is to start the Boland Pond Management Plan. And that would be primarily the scientific data gathering in the pond in the coming year. It's usually a year 2 process. Year 2 includes a little bit of more data gathering or monitoring, and it puts together the actual management plan. So you have, I think, 5 management plans that have been done in the last few years. This would be probably the next largest pond. It is not a great pond, but it is a significant pond in town.
Well, we, years ago, our committee, some of you weren't on the committee at the time, but years ago, we prioritized which ones we recommended to have management plans done. And those have now been done, and the next one on the list, and it was based on its level of impairment, was Boland.
Right.
So it's kind of been sitting there.
So the only thing that I think on Boland, and again, I agree, Judy, this was a decision that was made a number of years ago, but I don't think the question was ever asked, and it needs to be asked, does Boland have public access? So it has the school.
Yep.
Does school constitute public access? I don't know. To me, I think I would say, yes, it probably does, because like Eldridge Field, where it's sort of shared between the town and the school, we do have certainly varying cooperative agreements and arrangements, but we've said that we are not going to remediate, if you will, any pond that does not have public access. So
I
I
believe,
don't know either that the fact that when school is in session, people are not allowed, the public is not allowed to use those facilities, if that changes it, but I do think there needs to be a discussion about that. And then the second thing that I would raise about Boland Pond is just, is this the right time? We have just now completed sewering all of the upgradient properties to Boland Pond. They'll all, that whole stretch along 6A will be connected, hopefully, hopefully, in the next year. So there will be, and the town, as part of that sewering project, fixed all of the stormwater inputs to Boland. So is this the time to look at and study it, or is it rather more cost-effective to give it 5, 6 years and see what that effect is, and to see whether the impairment continues or doesn't? I'm just, again, I'm always thinking in terms of spending our dollars wisely and making sure that this committee assists the public in prioritizing need. And again, this is just the analysis of the pond, the 55,000, but what does a management plan run us?
It's a little less because there's less intense scientific efforts. Probably, I think 37 was the last estimated cost I had, but that's a dated number, so it's probably a little higher than that.
Okay.
And I say these things, I just want you to know that any work with UMass, we probably get a 40% discount on what they're if you initiated a new contract, we would pay 40% more because you have to cover all their carrying costs. But since we are a long-standing contract, we just do contract amendments and purchase orders. We're now at year 22 of that.
I'm going to take your question in just one second, Carolyn. I just wanted to mention, Judith, the Conservation Trust has property over there. There is public.
But that's not public access.
There's
That's private ownership.
There's
I
a
mean,
well, if they allow the public to come on the trail, there's a trail.
I know, Judy, but this is just town-owned properties has been,
Talking about public access for
Public-
the town.
yes.
Right. The other thing is that the trust, the Conservation Trust is working with the elementary and the middle school right now on developing educational programs using Boland Pond. So I just mentioned that as, yeah.
I know and I agree, but again, those are two private entities, if you will. The school, certainly not private. Whether it constitutes and whether the town should be paying for this or the school board, that's another issue. But the town does not fund or pay for Conservation Trust activities.
No, I know that.
The way they, I mean, that's just, yeah. So I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying that there needs to be discussion and debate over that, and I'm not trying to hold up George today, because I know that he's busy. But I think that, this is all about adaptive management in terms of wastewater plans. And there are tremendous amounts of dollars out there that have to be spent on remediation for both fresh and salt water. And I just think we have to be very cognizant of dollars that are being spent, where they're being spent, and are they being used timely and wisely.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm raising it.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Carolyn?
Having tested that pond now for 20-some-odd years, as we all know, we did a runoff study of what went into that pond and where it came from, and so we have that data. But there are a significant amount of sediments that have accumulated in that pond in 20 years, to the point that it is much shallower along the side that backs into Friends Marketplace and the condos on that side,
Yep.
than on the other side where there's no input. And the stormwater that comes in off of Route 6A has also brought a tremendous amount of sediment in. Actually, the state owns a piece of the bottom of that pond, so that's one more actor in terms of permissions and whatever. But to me, it's a sediment issue more than it is anything else.
And I know that's assisting to make it more shallow, but of course, part of this is just what freshwater ponds want to do. They want to become freshwater wetlands, in turn to become freshwater uplands.
But one-
So these smaller eutrophic, shallower ponds do tend to just fill in the way that island is around that.
Well, that's all sediment that's come off of Route 6A. Anyway, this is human-induced
It-
runoff.
Yeah, I think all of the eutrophic actions in our ponds are all natural processes that have been put on steroids thanks to human activity. That's,
So I believe we were going to have Bolin Pond on the agenda for February, so we can continue to discuss this and make a recommendation so that George knows whether to keep the request in for funding or not.
That's a timely discussion. Good, please
Yeah.
convey whatever the findings are, and
Yes.
I'll make sure that that gets brought into the budget discussion. Bolin's interesting, because as I'm told, it's a cold water pond.
Yes,
It
it's
is
the
the coldest,
coldest
Yeah.
one,
it is the coldest pond in town.
Yeah.
but not the
Despite the fact
deepest.
it's not
And
the
nearly the
deepest.
shallowest, so.
Well, it's not the
No.
shallowest, but it's not the
but
deepest.
it's not the deepest.
It's 6 meters in the bottom, which is the same as Uncle Harvey's and Ice House and whatever, so.
There's something.
But there's obviously an underground,
I think it's probably getting the groundwater from very deep.
Yeah.
It's the river from New Hampshire underground, yes.
Well,
George, I didn't
it's that
realize you had that
whole,
science
you know,
degree.
as I think we
Got it.
learned when we were looking at the transfer station, the old tap dump, and all of the groundwater flows coming from that direction, it's a really strange groundwater flow. It's one that I think presented great challenge to the USGS in mapping that out. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the coldness, is that it's going deeply down into underground or
Yeah.
whatever they are
It's picking up a
called.
high volume of groundwater
Yeah.
Do
at
I-
54 degrees or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do I remember correctly that Boland is the only one that has a portion that's going into Town Cove, flowing in that direction, groundwater flow? I can't remember.
Well, looking at
there's
the
your
map,
groundwater flow maps.
Bowling.
I don't have it in front of me.
Rich, it's definitely going into Town Cove.
Yeah, and it's the only one, a pond in Orleans that does that. It's
Well, a
pretty
little,
much.
as we discussed, a little tiny piece of Baker.
Yeah.
And I think Ice House also has a piece that goes into Town Cove. It's through a weird wetland system that's off Brick
going.
Hill.
Well, we'll look at it more next, we'll look at all that.
So please take this budget sheet as just what it was. It was a working budget sheet
a
submitted so
draft,
that
yeah.
the items you may want to work on are captured, and we tried to be ahead of the game this time. Traditionally, I've just worked with the chairman, Carolyn, a couple of years ago, and with Judy, just to make sure we don't miss some things. So if you want to do it a different way, let me know in advance.
George, did you mention the DO meters?
No, I have the latest purchase order with S-Mast, just executed a couple weeks ago, is to replace 6 of the dissolved oxygen meters. And this is a huge need, as we know, because those things are 20 years old. They've been used in caustic conditions for a long time, and they are starting to fail. So it's substantial, and they're on order. I found some wastewater money that had been authorized but not used by AECom, so we could use it for this purpose under an article, and we got that done.
And we were able to get the university discount?
We're purchasing them through the university, so
Yeah.
they will calibrate and deliver ready-to-use
Excellent.
equipment.
Oh,
And are at least some of them the long cord?
One has the longest cord,
Yep.
yes.
Okay,
So I really appreciate you doing that.
thank you.
Because our equipment, as Carolyn has pointed out, some of our equipment is 23 years old.
Used in salt water.
Do we have separate equipment DO meters that we use for fresh? I know the long cord are shared, or are they all
We
shared?
used to, but now we don't. As they,
All used in both.
And I'm not suggesting we don't need it, because I agree, we need it desperately, but I think that kudos to our volunteers for taking good care of
Yes,
them, because for
absolutely.
20 years old, they are in remarkably good condition. So,
But they,
doesn't mean they don't need replacing, they do, thank you.
when they fail, they fail.
When they fail
And
totally.
those old DO DOMs, I think they can't even be repaired there.
Right, there's
They're
three of them that I
out of
literally
contract.
had to toss out
They're
because
no
they cannot
longer
be repaired.
supported by
Right.
YSI, yeah.
So that was it, that was what I had to share with
And
you for the day.
deadlines? Just deadlines?
For?
So that we should know for fine tuning any budget requests from this committee?
You know, I see your selectman liaison is on
There he
here.
is.
So I think if you just convey any tweaks or recommendations you might have on this budget request through Mr. Herman, I think that's the best way to,
Okay.
best conduit to get the budget information through.
Okay, anyone have any questions for George? I promised him we would not keep him. But please, if you
Okay.
have a question, please.
Okay.
Well, George, I thank you so much. I
Sure,
know your
sure.
time, and you're very pressed today, so I appreciate,
Water quality is the name of the game. It makes this town a lot of what it is.
yeah, well, we couldn't do a lot of what we do if it wasn't for you. It's a great relationship that this committee has with you.
Let's keep it up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, George.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
So then, Judy, a question to our Select Board liaison. Deadline. Michael, so we've got,
He may not have heard, I don't know when he came in on the
Just
conversation.
recently.
Yeah.
okay, so we've basically, oh, and he doesn't have this either, do you? No.
No.
Okay, so we basically got funding needs for water quality for things that are sort of in existence and required permit compliance, about 97,000. Additional water quality funds request 181,000. And that's in three basic things, which are water quality data analysis and report, remediation of Crystal Lake and Pilgrim Lake with alum treatment, and Boland Pond management plan, which would be a start.
We can send this to him.
55,000. Oh, okay, Valerie's going to send that to you. So anyway, not asking that you weigh in, because it's not on our, well, it is on our agenda. I guess it could be discussed this morning. That's up to our chair as to whether it gets discussed or not.
Have you
But what
seen-
is your deadline? Because George has just indicated that the requests,
So I can send it to him. Can I interrupt for a second?
Well, you don't want to
Where do
give
I
his
send
phone
it?
number over TV. I have his,
I'll give it to you.
yeah. He
Thanks.
may have this, I don't know.
No, I don't have
No,
it.
you don't, okay. It's a draft, but.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in regards to timing, as soon as possible, I mean, people are already submitting for their wish list. We have until March, but, you know, we need time to research it, come back, ask questions if necessary.
That's
So the sooner the better.
Okay, that's all we needed to know, Judith.
Yeah, the warrant closes in March.
Is it March 2nd or something? I can't remember.
No, it's later in the month. Right now, it's on the calendar with March 8th, but then there's the special town warrant, which is a little bit later.
Okay,
But again, that does not give us any time. So if you have information now, please let us know whenever you feel comfortable, and the committee's voted on it, or you're however you want to handle it, that everyone, the whole committee is comfortable with what you're asking. It's a very challenging year. I think you all know that. You all know what the economy is like out there right now. And it's not a rosy forecast for the balance of this year. So and we're at similar, you know, I mean, if you watch the meetings, you know where we are with our budget. So please submit what you feel is right for your committees.
right. George kind of broke it out between what's required funding for regulatory compliance, things like that, and then what is
Should
additional.
have it.
Valerie just sent that to you.
He
It's
sent, that's,
Yeah. thank
texted
you.
to you.
yeah,
I was listening for a little bit, and then I finally got to. I had a meeting that ran over, so
That's
I
o-
apologize for that.
that's okay.
Great.
That's okay. I just didn't know where you came in and what you had heard. That's all.
Sure. Yeah, needs versus wants are always very helpful when we're putting things together. Knowing what is crucial, what may be put off for a year if it's not imminent or important, because there is only a finite amount of money,
Right.
and we will probably have to do an override. And to give money to one thing means it won't go to another thing
Right.
that may be in need. So, but you guys, I believe, all know that, and look forward to reviewing the list with you. And I'm free anytime, again, to go over the list in detail with you, Madam Chair, if you like.
Thank you so much, Michael. Any other questions for Michael? All right. I thank you.
Okay, so is this going to be on next month's,
Oh, yeah.
or are we discussing now?
We can discuss it some now, and then I will also put it on next month, for sure. Because we need to get back to George. Some of these items are going to, like Boland is going to be next month's more detailed discussion. But we certainly can talk about it a little bit. I want to make sure we get through everything today, but I'm happy to discuss it.
Okay.
What is the rest of you? You want to talk about this a little bit more?
Well, I would.
Okay,
It's because I don't know much.
all right,
Yeah.
all right.
So the optional, I see Crystal and Pilgrim under the sort of additional funding, which surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it surprises me too, but
Okay, so that was the question.
we're waiting actually for the select board to make a decision on that. Those recommendations went to them in January of 2021. But that was prior to some of the activities that have started up this year with the wastewater management advisory committee and all that, and the potential for a phase 3. That's all being discussed, but will that happen in time for the lakes? It's hard to say. You know, we had that 5-year sort of recommended action. If you can't do sewering within a certain period of time, you should probably consider an interim treatment, and that's what this is. So we don't really know exactly when. Maybe Judith will update us on when Phase 3, if it goes through, would actually be completed for those upgradient homes.
So
So that's kind of a,
So that's unknown. So again, all of this is being finalized with,
Right.
just in terms of, and when I say finalized, it's sort of like the final proposal to the select board of what Phase 3 should consist of. So that isn't yet complete, but assuming that it does provide for the upgradient properties of Pilgrim and Crystal, assuming everything stays on track the way past sewering phases have been scheduled, which is, I think, those are two reasonable assumptions, but, you know, then it should be started in 2026, which is within our 5 years. It would probably not be completed, although that's another outstanding question about whether you start hooking up before the entire thing is completed, or whether you wait for full completion before you start hooking up properties. So sometime by 2028, presumably, again, many, many ifs, those upgradient properties would be sewered. So, you know, with Boland, Crystal, Pilgrim, all three of those, OPC has been tracking cyanobacteria for 2 years now. We'll be going into our 3rd year. Boland for just 1 year, but Pilgrim and Crystal for 2. Pilgrim and Crystal, we have seen that there is cyanobacteria. There is fortunately no blooms, no high counts, no threat to public.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've had potential for concern, I mean, monitoring when it looked as though the populations were going up, but nothing in terms of danger,
Yeah,
as some of the earlier.
The highest counts have come out of Uncle Harvey's, and that's been probably 2 and 3 times
Yeah.
any of the other ponds. Boland has had nothing for its first year. I think it's essential that we continue to track it and look at it. But I think with Pilgrim and Crystal, again, what the management report had said was we may be able to avoid treating the legacy sediments in those lakes. That's already there, the internal load that's generating, if we can get it sewered. Now, it's not, for some ponds, it's an either or, for some ponds, it's a both. Uncle Harvey's was a both. We knew going into this, we had to take care of the legacy sediments, and we had to take care of the external sources. With others, Pilgrim Crystal, it's an either or. We may be able to avoid. So I think, no question, the reason for the sooner the better is because every year that you add those external sources, you're growing more algae, you're growing more flora. That then is composting down to the bottom and creating more sediments. So the longer you wait, the more the sediments are growing. That said, I don't see doing an alum treatment until we know we have to. If soaring is a possible way to avoid taking care of legacy sediments, then you don't jump in when you're planning on soaring starting shoveling the ground within 5 years, which is consistent with the plan. You don't jump in. You might jump in if you start getting blooms, if you're finding that you need to close because of public health issues. Well, yeah, then you go and you put together a warrant article and you say, we need 100,000, since it's going to be 140,000, but we have the 40. We need to have $140,000 to initiate an alum treatment.
How would you get that into a budget if you're
Because-
waiting until it actually happens?
So you've got springtown meetings and you've got fall town meetings. So you're basically, and an alum treatment in either is going to be a spring option. You don't, not that you can't, you rarely treat with alum in the fall. It's an early spring option. So it's not going to happen this year. I mean, we wouldn't want it to. I would say that would be a ridiculous thing to do, but it's not going to happen this year. The earliest it would happen would be next year. You go through the summer and you see that these lakes are really tanking and there's a problem. Well, you put in an article for fall town meeting that says, and now you can help justify that because you've actually got the urgency. You've got a reason. To ask for a $140,000 project when you're basically looking for something that's a preemptive strike, I think that this is a loser. And I think that it just doesn't, I don't think it's a good thing for our committee to be recommending, especially when we do have money that's so tight. I think we need to be leaders, if you will, in making sure that we're spending dollars wisely. So the Boland, again, I'm not opposed. I just think that we need to look at this closely. If this isn't a pond that qualifies for the town doing management to it, well, then aren't we really lucky that the town sewered it? I mean, it got sewered for other reasons, but that's fine. That the town sewered it and the town took care of stormwater treatment. It may be up to the owners and abutters to take care of legacy sediments if there is need for legacy sediment management in the pond. But either way, again, I'm just not sure that this is the time to analyze and look at this pond. It just seems like the timing's wrong. If we did this 5 years ago, before we were doing a soaring, Boland,
Yeah.
Well, we
that
tried.
would have made sense. If
put it
we
in.
wait now, it seems to me, so there could be an argument made for, you will do it now, because this would be interesting to jump in and get this data now before it's sewered, so that when places are hooked up and the external stops flowing, we can go back and do it again in 5 to 10 years to actually visually see what that difference is. I think that's a really interesting study. I'm not sure that, frankly, that the town has the money to fund basically academic studies of
It's not
what
an
may be.
academic study.
Well, it is an interest. It is
I know one thing.
feedback on whether this has been an effective approach. But when you know that, what you may know is that this has been an effective approach or hasn't been for one freshwater pond. It doesn't tell you that this is now the way to go or what to avoid for all freshwater ponds. As
You may find, if you look at, in the process of doing the management plan and the assessment that goes with it, you may find that Boland Pond is now heading in the right direction based on the things that the town has already implemented, in which case the management plan would not have the recommendation for any kind of remediation. I mean, but you're not going to know that unless you do an updated
right, but
assessment.
meanwhile, we've spent $95,000 to find out that we don't need to do anything. And again, while I think that's really good information, you can also, since we've already done the external, you can now wait, track it, follow it, look at it, watch it, and then make a determination that, wait a minute, this does not seem to be improving. We may need to do more. So again, I look at all of the work that's going to be needed in Nauset estuaries as we move forward with that. And again, that doesn't come from this committee. It does. I mean, this committee is the one that does the estuary sampling and coordinates all of that in Nauset estuaries. There's going to end up being a lot of money that has to get spent on that, and that's going to be really urgent money. So I just think that we need to be very cautious. For the data analysis and report, I am totally on board. I'm completely on board with doing some kind of better data analysis, but I think that this is sort of backwards. I don't think we ask for the money and then figure out how we want to spend it. I think we figure out what it is that we want to do, put together a proposal that says this is what we want to do, and then get a response back that says this is what we need to provide. And maybe what we want is the 26,500 that's proposed here. Maybe we want a data analysis and depiction of all of our saltwater ponds. I assume this is not just the ponds, but all of the stations.
Yep.
I sent around that
Yes.
Pleasant Bay report, and again, that was really helpful, and that's great.
Right.
That was, I think, much less information than what we're going to get from SMAST, and that's not a bad thing either. I mean, I don't know that we need the kind of in-depth analysis that we will typically get from SMAST, but this doesn't in any way then address what we want to do around freshwater ponds, which I sort of thought was the bigger need, and I may be missing that.
I was talking about both when I mentioned this to George way back and asked him, well, not way back, but last month. In my mind, it included freshwater, and it also included the citizen-friendly update. So that needs to be clarified, because I thought this included also doing the what we have discussed previously about getting information out to citizens and the citizen volunteers in a format that's, short and easy to understand. That's supposed to be part of this, at least when I talked about it, and when we talked about it as a committee.
Okay.
So I will,
You'll speak to him.
I'll get some clarification on that. Going back to Pilgrim and Crystal Lake, I do respectfully disagree with you on that. I mean, you cannot predict when and if there will ever be a toxic algal bloom.
Right.
Or any kind of algal bloom that results in the pond turning green and things, fish and other things being killed. And so, the last thing I ever want to see happen is our only herring spawning habitat, belly up alewives or fry killed by a bloom. So I have a little bit different opinion than you do about the importance of interim treatments, because, the other question, and I made a note to get clarification, in my mind, 5 years is not from the start of of sewering, building it. It's when it's hooked up and functioning and the phosphorus is no longer entering the pond.
Well,
So
that,
that
Ed Eichner has said that for phosphorus is virtually immediate. When you hook up that sewer, the septic system, take it off septic, put it onto sewer, for phosphorus, you're done.
Right.
For nitrogen, no.
Right, I'm
You hook
talking
it
about
up, and then
phosphorus.
it's going to keep going. But for your phosphorus, when
talking
it's
about
hooked up,
phosphorus.
it's done.
And that would be 2028, 29.
28, presumably.
well,
Again,
so
if
that-
we're if we're on target, and
Right.
nobody knows that for sure.
So when discussing the recommended 5-year and the interim and all that, I look at when it's actually removing the phosphorus from the system, not the beginning. Carol?
I definitely see what you're saying about not spending money that we don't need to spend, especially in this economic climate. My concern, however, is those words, expected hookups, and when we expect all this to happen. I can't recall any major project, and specifically the ones so far on the sewering projects, that have ever gone according to the original or the second, or maybe not even the third projected timeline.
Well, they haven't been far off.
Meh.
I mean, the wastewater
A
plant,
scientific term?
Absolutely.
the wastewater plant was supposed to be open in September.
Yeah, but
And
that's the-
everything was going to be, then the hookups were going to begin in September.
I'd like
and
to hear the rest of what.
It's now off
I would-
until January.
Yeah, but that wasn't the first projected, expected start time of a new sewer treatment plant. It was a couple of years ago.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Let's not argue about it.
But
really.
my point is, I think those timelines are really helpful, but I wouldn't bet on them.
If I'm understanding this right, I mean, it seems like the discussion is hinging a little bit on, are we gambling? Or is
Right.
a possibility of negative impact so, what's the word? Not catastrophic, but so negative that we don't want to gamble.
Significant.
Right.
Well,
Is that sort of the,
Yes,
Yes.
Crystal Lake is losing water clarity at 5 inches a
Right,
year.
I mean,
That, a lot of that's
I mean-
plankton. So, I mean, in Crystal Lake and Pilgrim Lake are big recreational lakes for the town of Orleans with public access and everything else. So,
So
How
what's
long
the
is it
time?
going to take to turn people off?
well, let me remind you, and I've mentioned this before, Crystal Lake back in the 80s turned pea soup green. So it's not that it can't ever happen. And I'm
And then
not, I
came
don't
back.
have a crystal ball, but we went through this whole process with these management plans, and we have these recommendations that we submitted, which did include interim action, depending on when the, sewering would be completed for those lakes and removing the phosphorus from entering the lake. And I remember clearly that by connecting those up gradient homes, it would take care of and address all the water quality issues for both those lakes. So it's a great, what is being worked on now with a potential Phase 3 is excellent. I'm very encouraged. I know it's going to take longer because you are also going to need to address the nitrogen loading issue. It's not just hooking up the ponds that, 13 and whatever it was on Crystal Lake and 19 on Pilgrim or whatever.
Honestly, it would be the same phasing, because what's happening is you hook up to connect pipes. So when you connect the pipes, you are having to pass more properties than you need just for the phosphorus removal. Fortunately, those additional properties are nitrogen contributors, so you get both. There is no wasted hookups, if you will. But it did not expand the time frame at all for Pilgrim and Crystal to have to wait for nitrogen. That is absolutely incorrect.
I'm just
On the
saying
w-
it takes longer because it's a bigger area in the proposal.
So back to the management plan, and I know our committee agreed on 5 years. I'm absolutely fine with that. But at the time, and I think continuing now, Ed couldn't swear to, and no one can swear to, is it going to be 5 years? Is it going to be 10 years? We might have another 10 years before either of those ponds tank. We might not. We may only have 1 or 2. We just don't know. But we agreed to go with the 5 years. That was the plan, and I hear what you're saying, whether it's a 5-year that you start, it's a 5-year that you finish. I still think if there is the chance to avoid having to address these, not only for the $140,000 it's going to cost, but also just for the whole contention and battle over it, that we are better off waiting, monitoring closely, watching, and seeing. The 5 inches a year, when does that go back to, Judy?
Pardon me?
The 5 inches a year that we've lost in clarity, when does that go back to?
That's since monitoring began, I think, in 2001, 2000.
So that was, I assume, adjusted for the fact that we were then using aquascopes?
I have no idea.
Because you've got a huge additional visibility with the aquascopes, and we
haven't
don't
used
use
those
them
in
anymore.
Yeah, we haven't used those
But
in
it-
years. They're still,
But in the early years, we did. So if you're basically measuring something that's going to gain 10 inches for you by aquascope, and now you're not using aquascope,
Yeah,
then that
I don't
isn't tanked lake, that's
Judith, if you
different
removed
equipment.
aquascope, you're probably looking at monitoring data for 19 years or something, or 20 years instead of 22 or 23. I mean, it's not, the ponds are declining, we know that. They're
Oh,
declining every year.
Absolutely.
Carol's had her hand patiently up, and so has Ed, so
Thank you.
let me please.
I guess the short version of what I said before is, my concern is the negative economic impact of waiting may very likely be way more significant than the economic impact of being proactive.
And I think we're going to see that, and I think it can be addressed very quickly. Look at Uncle Harvey's. It was a cyano bloom. We did the alum treatment. It was gone.
All right, Ed, and then Carolyn.
All right,
Oh,
so
and then Rich.
I have a,
Okay.
I have a few comments on the various things that we've been discussing. First, with regard to Uncle Harvey's Pond, I think that was something of a disaster, what happened there. It's something that we don't want to see repeated. And we did take action, but it took a few years to get the alum approved and done. So it dragged on for quite a while. Some of you may remember Betsy, who was on this committee, who fought so hard because she was living close to it, and how long that took. So our responsibility as a scientific committee is to present to the select board what we think is happening scientifically with the impairments of the ponds, and give them recommendations. So a discussion, while I'm sympathetic to spending money wisely, I'm not sure that we're the one to decide that. I think that's a select board sort of job.
Well, it-
So we tell them what's going on, we give them the scientific options that they have, and then they have to, in their deliberations, decide which of those to follow. So I don't want to be doing their job for them. And I certainly don't want Pilgrim Lake to become what Uncle Harvey's was and have us in that same situation. I think that would be a disaster, not only for us as a scientific advisory committee, but for the town, obviously. And,
We won't, because it's a great pond. The people around it have no say.
oh, okay, so good.
The public does still
one
have
thing.
say, and don't think for a minute that there won't be the
Yeah.
same kind of debate with the
All
select
right.
board
It's
that
not
there
the same
was.
I'd like to continue.
won't be the same.
I have a few more things. With regard to Boland, I'm sympathetic to what Judith said. I don't know that we need to do it exactly now. We could probably delay that a year or two or
We've
something.
been delaying it for a long time anyway.
Yeah, I get that. But Judith, if I heard you correctly, you did say it would be of great interest to have that data. So that's a thing that we could present to the select board and let them decide how and when.
Yes, intellectual interest, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I would say, Ed.
And then with regard to item number 4 in this proposed budget, trying to, I guess, educate the town residents on what's going on. Judith did send around that Pleasant Bay Alliance report, which I found extremely interesting and easier to understand than a lot of the SMAS reporting we get. One thing in particular that I liked in there was something called the eutrophication index, where they use all the water quality issues like nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, and other things to come up with an index that they can plot for each of the ponds or estuaries and show trends and what's going on in those in a very simple, readable way. And I think use of those, if we could encourage that, would be something that would be very good. So basically, that's what I have to say.
It'd be nice to know if Dr. Duncanson's going to do another one of those.
Not to my knowledge.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
There is no current plan.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think SMAS was involved in that report, wasn't it?
No, well, yes and no. So SMAST, all of what triggered doing the water quality studies for all of the towns was the state implementing the Massachusetts Estuaries Project back in 1999, 2000. Pleasant Bay Alliance was one of the first estuaries to jump in and say, we want to participate and start up sampling stations and a protocol and a program. So in Orleans, it has been this committee, this group, that has coordinated this for many, many years. Peg and Bob Weinman way back when, and then taken over by Carolyn and Judy, and so it has continued on. SMAST was the group that got the contract for the Massachusetts Estuaries Project. So this is their baby. And they hold the water quality model, which was what George was talking about. So they've got all the data. Now, the towns have all the data too. It's our data. They basically do the analysis. They send the towns the data. As the technical advisor to the Pleasant Bay Alliance, Dr. Duncanson has access to that data. And so he utilized that data because he's the one that has headed up, wrote the QUAP for the Pleasant Bay Alliance project, water quality project. And he has coordinated and headed up, still does really, all of the sampling for Chatham, Brewster, Harwich, Orleans.
Is he the one that made the eutrophication index? Who?
I believe so. I
He
believe
didn't create the index.
No, it's-
But he used,
it's a published, there are several published indices for fresh and salt water.
but we could ask the SMAS people
Yes.
to organize their data and give us that,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that would satisfy what we need to do. in
But you need to have some funding to,
number
before you
four, or at
can
least
ask them to do
go
that. yeah.
toward doing that.
Yes, and I guess I see this piece, the